right. Well, let me start then. Let me. The theme of today's presentation is going to be simplicity, right? So my first job was out of university, which was last year, and I'm just kidding. It was in IT. I got a degree in computer science, and I joined a sole IT person in a hospital. It was a hospital for drug and alcohol addicts. Some of them were mandatory there, some of them were voluntary there. And it's interesting because I was sharing the room with two leading doctors. And I saw quite a lot of interesting things, right? And as a sole IT person, got to witness quite a bit of things, do a lot of things. I thought this would be how many of you guys are in IT? Are you all right? Cool. So I mean, this may resonate with you. Close the door. Basically, what it is like when people ask me what I do, I'm like, yeah, I do a lot of stuff. But everybody thought I played computer games. Actually, I did play computer games sometimes, but most of the time I didn't. I thought it was like a really cool job, which it was, until the flood destroyed the server. And thank God we had some backups. Learned very quickly the value of having backups. And this was pre-cloud days. But yeah, I mean, if you look at what we have, like the attitude of the bosses is just do it, right? It's basically the reality is that you have to secure endpoints, you have to manage them, you have to have like zero incidents, right? No downtime. You have to manage like install things, you provide tech support, everything, and of course, you don't have any budgets, very few budgets to do that, right? So with that, uh, like how do you do that, right? If you're a small company with very little IT resources, it becomes a nightmare. It becomes a challenge, right? From one point, you have to do like endpoint protection. You have to deal with alerts. You have, maybe you have a SIM solution, vulnerability patch management, right? You have to do compliance. You have to do reports. You have to do a bunch of other things, right? And a lot of times, you're one person or just a few people, right? This becomes kind of a daunting task. So complexity is really becoming the enemy of security. And why is that? If you look at these numbers here, it's very interesting data here. 88% of breaches are caused by employee mistakes, right? IBM puts that at 95%. And you guys have seen this before, like people do not very smart things. I mean, you can only tell people so many times, don't open attachments on the emails or click on saying things, and people nod their heads and they do the training and certified and they do it anyway, right? So what's interesting is that the alerts, the amount of alerts is becoming the enemy right now. Like if you look at this, 70% investigate 10 plus security alerts per day. How many alerts do you guys get? 10. You don't just get 10 alerts, right? You get significantly more than that, right? How do you deal with this? I mean, look at this time to investigate. 78% state that it takes 10 minutes to investigate alert. 10 minutes, man. I mean, like 10 times 10, you're really, if you do nothing else, it's like hour and a half, maybe 2 hours investigating alerts every day. Like, that's not realistic. Like, it's just simply not, right? And then here's a more startling stat where if you have too many alerts, 38% just basically turn off alerting features or hire more analysts. Now, I put a comma there because this is not realistic. How many of us can go say, I want more analysts? It's like me going to my boss, saying I need more marketing people, right? Like, good luck with that. It's like, unfortunately, both IT and marketing are considered like a cost center, even though, we do a lot of other things, but this is the reality, right? We can't hire more analysts. This is what it is. This came from a recent study. I just added this morning. It really hits home. Complexity is the enemy of security. It's funny because keep it simple is the name of this company, right? But it's truly it's really becoming about keeping it simple. Honestly, when I was in IT, then I became a software engineer. Like learning all these languages, learning all these products and all the features and like what everything does, it's just not realistic. And then there are updates, there are new tools and new things. Like how do you do that? How do you manage all these alerts, right? And if you look at that between vendors, like having multiple vendors, multiple products, new products, and having insufficient training, insufficient time to do training and do alerts, this is where a lot of incidents are happening, right? And if you look at it, we're talking about the gaps here, gaps and cracks. This is where a lot of incidents happen. Again, complexity is becoming the enemy of security. Now, this is unfortunately our reality today, right? From one side, you have enterprise grade, complex security products, which are good, but they're very complex, right? Like if you're an enterprise, it's funny, when I was in Symantec, I worked 8.5 years in Symantec. Uh, I was the cybersecurity expert on critical infrastructure protection, so traveled the world, met with a bunch of folks that got hacked, like power and energy and gas lines and a bunch of things. What shocked me that there were actually, like in big companies, there were teams dedicated to endpoint security. Teams. How many of you guys can dedicate teams to endpoint security? Heck, man, there were teams dedicated to like Symantec endpoint protection. Teams. Like these girls were super knowledgeable. They were even more knowledgeable than many of the vendor folks. Like that's not the reality for us. So for like 95% of companies, that's not the reality, right? It's very hard to deal with this complexity. Like there are some good products there, like CrowdStrike and a bunch of others, but I mean, you really have to drop everything and figure out how to become an expert. And again, you're dealing with this. They say you have dealing with complexity that overpowers IT, tools, vendors, integrations, right? UI, alerts. It's just daunting. It's funny, like 6, 7 years ago, I was with another cybersecurity vendor, and I went to, I think it was in Tucson, Arizona, a behavioral health, and I became friends with the CIO. I mean, CIO was CIO of 2 people or 3 people there, right? And he's like, "Yeah, come hang out with me so you can understand my life." Just for a day. And then the amount of the support tickets and servers he had to deal with and the like appliances and endpoint, like, do you understand now, Gary, why like I don't have time to like answer vendors and deal with these things? Like it's eye-opening experience. I hope a lot of vendors do, but this is reality. Like if you're a large enterprise, great, this works. But if you're mid-size or a small company, this is not realistic. Then you have that you have like, okay, good, I'm Microsoft or somebody else. You have a free product. It's a Defender. Come on over. It's a good product. Yeah, it's a good enough product, right? But good enough for what? Right? Like that becomes the question. So the answer here is really have a security that is balanced and easy to use. There are 4 elements that you're looking into endpoint protection, right? One of them, like it has to check all boxes, right? It has to have, antivirus, like endpoint protection, malware protection, vulnerability assessment, patch management, firewall, right? Like all these things have to be there. It has to be easy to use. Like you can't have like a rocket science, like you have to spend all this time, right? It has to be easy to use. It has to be inexpensive. It's funny, I was talking to my friend who became a CEO of a company. He has, I think, between 200 and 300 employees in this company. He called me. He said, "Gary, could you imagine like how much we're paying to certain enterprise endpoint protection vendor?" I'm like, "Alex, how much?" For like 300 endpoints or 200 endpoints, how much are you paying? He's like north of 100,000 a year. I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of money, man. So, and then of course, award winning, not just to say it's award winning, but you want to make sure that some third party vendors like have evaluated this and have a solution that, you know, can actually secure things, right? So I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about our approach. Like, I mean, how many of you guys know Malwarebytes? How many of you used Malwarebytes? Right? Like, it's funny. Uh, I joined Malwarebytes a year ago, and when I wear Malwarebytes, like in airport, people stop me like, "Yeah, man, we just eradicated some ransomware or virus." It was funny. I was in a cruise in Bahamas with my wife and 37 other family members for New Year's, but there was this Italian dude that was like super serious, and we were talking about things, and then he found out I'm from Malwarebytes. He's like, man, yeah, I used to work as a manager of an Apple store, and I used Malwarebytes. I recommend it to every single person who had problems with. They came with ransomware, malware problems. I reckon, like, he became my best friend. Before that, he didn't want to talk to me, which I don't blame him. But look at this. Malwarebytes was born out of remediation, right? Like it's a funny story. The founder, the CEO, the way it worked, he was like 16 years old or so. His parents went somewhere, and he's a gamer. He decided to play some computer games on his parents' computer, and he got infected by some viruses or malware, right? And he knew he would get killed when his parents returned, and the computer doesn't work, right? So he went on forums and started looking for solutions, and he found a bunch of people whom he became friends, and they wrote simple program to remove malware because nothing else was working. And it worked so well, he got deeper and deeper and deeper. A couple of years later, he founded a company, and that's how the Malwarebytes were born, basically addressing things others cannot address, right? Cleaning things. So, I mean, since then, it's been like 15 years, I believe, or more. So, yeah, 15 years. Now he's like 32, 33 years old. And but this is really interesting. There are more than 500 million downloads. Look at this, folks. Those are just, this is just a snapshot, right? Period of time. Like those are the vendors. I mean, that we found challenges that were missed here. Again, we're talking about free security, right? Like this is scary, right? Like this is where we were born from. What we did is we build a solution on that remediation engine, right? So not only you can clean things up, but you can also keep them clean, right? And there, I want to share a couple of interesting stats here. Uh, uh, you may or have not heard MRGFITIS. It's a third-party institution that does tests. Basically, every single vendor. They're not paid. They're free. They do their own thing. And look at this. I mean, overall good, but Malwarebytes is the only company that has 8 quarters in a row checking all the boxes for security. 360 assessment, exploit, online banking, and ransomware, right? Another interesting one, Gartner has a website where people go leave reviews. And I mean, unlike analysts, which I respect analysts, but analyst is a person, right? Or a group of people. They're subjective. They're not practitioners, right? These are folks like us, like you, who went and put reviews, and those are the solutions. I mean, Malwarebytes, along with several others, made on the top quadrant, and then those are the ones that are not. Like again, Microsoft free solution is in aspiring quadrant, right? So here are some, I just put like 3 snapshots of the reviews, what people are saying about Malwarebytes. Those are IT practitioners. Those are not consumers. Where's the ringtone? So one that kind of gets is interesting is this one is that elevates the acumen of novice administrator, again with a focus on simplicity, right? You don't have to be novice, but the simplicity really matters, right? So what we do is three core things along like EDR, MDR, and security advisor. I want to talk to you a little bit about each one of those. Endpoint detection and response, we have a very intuitive solution. If you're looking for like cybersecurity, this is the right solution. If you have the resources to do it yourself, like deal with alerts, or, it's a very intuitive, easy to use solution that is built on that remediation engine I was talking about. It prevents more attacks, detects and responds faster, and then can save quite a bit of time. But we also have a managed detection and response, which is growing the fastest, because what this solution does, it's built on our EDR, endpoint detection and response, and actually we look at the alerts, and our analysts look at the alerts, that we find the threats, and we work with you to remediate them. So you don't have to do it all manually. You don't have to look at like hundreds of alerts yourselves, right? Here's an interesting story. This is a very large nutrition company. I can't use their name, but you guys would know them for sure. They had a pretty large incident, and then they came to Malwarebytes asking us to investigate, remediate, and keep clean moving forward. They got our EDR and MDR solution. We did not know what the details were. The way it started, there were, when they installed our product, there were several alerts showing that there is a ransomware and there is RDP brute force attack that is happening, and it got quarantined, but it was happening. So our analysts determined there were two accounts, administrative accounts, compromised, as well as the domain controller and SQL Server. Right. So whatever they had, either did not detect and or the alerts were just overlooked because there were hundreds and hundreds of alerts, right? So our analysts also discovered Cobalt Strike server that was beaconing. And again, Cobalt Strike servers are okay, but a lot of times they are used as a attack surface to get deeper into the network, right? So our EDR blocked that, but the threat was still persistent. They were somewhere in the network, right? So then our analyst investigated, contacted the MDR customer engagement, who contacted our customer. The team brought all the evidence to them, and were able to suggest corrective action, which included, of course, changing user passwords, rebuilding the compromised systems from a known good state, and then by using EDR and MDR combo moving forward, they were able to, prevent these type of things happening forward. So again, this MDR is is the fastest growing solution in the industry. In our case, it's built on our EDR engine, which is built on the remediation that I was sharing with you guys earlier. This is what the guy said, right? Lately, we introduced a new product called Security Advisor, which is super cool and interesting in a way that this is sort of your like a knowledge center. You deploy this with our EDR and or other solutions. It quickly evaluates your security stance and gives you a very simple score, right? Let's say it's at 40%. Then it gives you specific recommendations, and also you can click a button, and we're adding more and more buttons to click where you can click and take remediative action, and you can see how things change, and you can make actually a report, to share like, here's where we were, here's where we are, right? So it makes a big difference. So this is our security advisor. We launched it recently, and again, it's very, very simple to use. And then finally, what we're doing is we're doing bundles. We're changing things where most of our products are going to be in this, advanced bundle where you'll have like, endpoint detection and response, vulnerability and patch management, automated remediation guidance, ransomware rollback, right? Like, and then our elite bundle adds managed detection and response, the MDR, and then the ultimate adds, the app block like on a website for websites, right? Again, the reason I'm showing this is the whole idea here is to simplify things, where you don't need to buy like 5, 7, 10 different products and solutions to address it. I mean, it makes it much easier. You can work with Keep It Simple and get it via them. I'll finish with this and then I'll answer questions. If you guys interested and talk to our Keep It Simple product folks here today, you'll get, we have a special going on for 20% off. We'll be happy to work with you guys on that. Just approach Keep It Simple folks or come to our booth and, we'll work with you. Folks, that's pretty much what I have today. Do you guys have any questions? Anything I can answer? Any comments? Any stories, anecdotes, jokes? Is it helpful? All right.
So
yes.
Question.
Please.
How does the engine work in comparison to like what we have in our organization? It's the endpoint team manages that. I'm on the infrastructure team, but it was deployed in our organization. We have CrowdStrike, and behind that thing is supposed to be like next step, some sort of intelligence in that. It doesn't really scan. Just how does Malwarebytes the engine?
Well, it's a good question. We have a combination of like knowledge, like a network. So we have, as you can see, like a half a billion endpoints and that we work with. So we collect information and threats, and we have AI that is analyzing this in real time, as well as we have a threat center that looks at the latest developments and breaches and vulnerabilities and does some proactive threat hunting. And all that information from both people and machine and endpoints, it gets collected and you have the latest up to second updates. And in this case, it doesn't just like provide you threat intelligence, which it does, but also scans and addresses and stops attacks. Right? And if you go with managed detection response, you don't even need to deal with alerts anymore. The people who are doing the threat hunting and vulnerability assessment and a bunch of other things are people at our SOC. We are on a lookout for alerts that come from your organization, and we can much quicker identify them and find the attacks and contact you guys to remediate those things on top of blocking things in real time.
Is it like a behavior type of thing? I think that's where CrowdStrike is. There's 7 points. Like it doesn't look. It looks at behavior things and stops it in its track when it sees some sort of things that are out of the norm.
Absolutely, it's definitely behavior. It's behavior. It's known things as well as AI. It's all combination, and it's based on the latest threats. And again, the difference here with other vendors is that on top of everything, we have the data for remediating the most dangerous ransomware. As you saw in the map, we actually find what others miss. We're sort of like the last stop when people come to us like, hey, we just got hit by ransomware because some whatever we have didn't work, right? We have that data as well, which others don't. So we have the behavior, we have AI, we have people, we have threat center, but we also have the exploits that happened, that succeeded, and that data also gets fed into the protection engine. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be happy to do like a demo and to provide more information if you're interested. Yes, you had a question?
I was just going to comment on the information that was presented, saying that information was helpful.
Well, thank you.
Getting to know exactly the background information about the company.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Any questions from this side of the house? I think the right side is winning here. Right. Well, thank you, folks. Really appreciate your time, and look forward to hopefully seeing you later.
Thank you.
You.
Oh, and you guys can. There's another slide. You can.
Uh-oh.
Last slide. You can check out.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's
Check in and check out. Okay, we in
Check in,
prison
I
now.
like it.
Yeah. So,
It's not like Hotel California, right?
yeah, we do let you leave eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
Yep.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.